Okay, let's start off with breathing in some life force energy, letting go. I was actually told not to do that anymore. Yeah, someone actually emailed me and told me breathing here is unnecessary. So here we go again, breathing in life force energy and letting go. Welcome to our Life Force Canada podcast. We're here to educate those who are ready to see the truth, hear the truth. We dive deep into topics and ask that you do your own research. Don't believe what we say. Go out there and find the truth for yourself. You are here on this earth realm to claim your true sovereign power and to be a divine creditor, not a debtor. It all starts from within. Yes. Hi, Stan from Red Deer. Hazer, excellent. Hi, I'm Delta. Perfect. Yes, thank you. Hi, Ray. Cher, Maple Ridge, Renee. Excellent. So tonight we have April Reeves joining us. She will be sharing her amazing research into the Deep Sky Labs, who are here to build the world's first carbon removal center in Innisfail, Alberta. Even though this is happening in Alberta, Canada is said to be leading the way in the carbon removal. So this is going to be coming to a town near you if we don't rise up. If you remember me talking about this 2 months ago, yeah, so now we're going to do a deep dive into this conversation. But before we move into this important topic, Claire and Carol sent me the Epoch Times article, and I'm just going to read it here. Very important, well, really exciting, actually. So there are towns in Newfoundland that are governing themselves, and they pay no property tax. So I'm just going to summarize it here. So there's about 13,000 residents in Newfoundland and Labrador. So that's about 2.5% of the province's population, who live in some 120 unincorporated areas spread across the province, areas with no municipal government structure. So in these areas, residents pay for specific services that they want, like garbage, etc., garbage collection. So did you hear me say that? No property tax. So when they need a task, when a task needs to be done, residents form a committee. So it reads, the unincorporated model empowers individuals and communities to have more control over their finances rather than paying a blank check to their mayor or the mayor's office, to the town council, to decide how their money should be spent. They also manage to do it without a central government controlling these decisions. The local residents can do it themselves. Of course we can, without having to have expensive elections, having to divide the community, and having to basically have one person or council making those decisions. So the residents have just really empowered themselves, and they work together on projects. And when people have the ability to choose what to fund, it really shows what is most important to the community. So yay to all the men and women in Newfoundland that are very wise. I think we can learn a lot from them. So this is exactly what we have been talking about in our Take Back Your Town meetings that we've been having. We've been talking right here about this subject for a very long time. In the beginning, 2020, right here on Life Force Canada, towns can actually unincorporate and become sovereign. Towns are where the power is. Yes, so this needs to be everyone's focus instead of complaining about property tax. Take back your town instead. So we'll be having this discussion in our private member meeting next month here as well, moving forward too. Yes, JP, we need to come together. Exactly, Ray. Yeah, that is very, very exciting. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Claire and Carol, for sending that to me. This model of freedom is already here in Canada. No property tax. Okay. I must say I am very grateful for all of you who had my back last week. We kind of went through a mini storm. Uh, it's been a long 4 years being here every Monday, and now over 218 videos on YouTube and Rumble. If you have no idea who I am or what I'm about, I highly recommend that you watch some replays. If you want to know more about Lifers Canada, please sign up. We got free membership, liferscanada.ca. If you want to be a private member and do a deep dive and take action, then our private membership is where it's at, $25 a month. That's like $6.70 a meeting. Okay, so as with any platform, there's always going to be storms. Storms allow us to sweep away the debris. I just want to say thank you to Shannon of the Kyle family. She was like Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, with that, what's it called? Lightsaber. And I would turn around and, oh, there's Shannon. She's like, don't you dare. Love you so much, Shannon. She's one of our trustees. And yeah, thank you to Karen. Karen of the family Hannah, another one of our trustees. Bill Chalmers, one of our private members. Aaron, Claire and Carol. Yeah, love to all of you. There's probably more that I'm not aware of. I tell you though, when I win a big lottery or have access to my trust account, I know who I'm sharing the wealth with. So remember, a great quote. I don't know where it's from, but it's, we don't walk away to teach people a lesson. We walk away because we finally have learned ours. Yes. Okay. A couple of months ago, you heard me again talking about the deep sky carbon removal plant in Innisfail, Alberta. Tonight, we've got April here, April Reeves, who has been doing a lot of research for years, and she's here to share what she's discovered. I've known April Reeves on Facebook for some time and following her, and just love her passion and her dedication for the truth. So she's going to be here to share a lot of information. I'm going to be asking her some questions, and then we can open it up for a Q&A to our members as well. Our members are asked to put their question in the chat, and Esther is going to be bringing these questions forward. Thank you to Esther. She's another one of our amazing trustees. I so appreciate you. April, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, and I'm going to have you actually introduce yourself, and then I want you to share what inspired you to investigate this plant. I know it's been a journey for you.
Yeah, a fairly short but intense one. I've been in activism since I was 9 years old, and I won't even get into all the things I've ever done because it's everything from GMO to everything, power plants, you name it. So I have a fairly high instinct for bull crap when I hear it. Yeah, it's not brain surgery. So anyway, when I heard about the CO2 plant, I was curious. We went to the first council meeting and it was a nightmare. The day before I went to that council meeting, I went to talk to the mayor, who was unbelievably rude to me, which tells me a story right there. That was my first trigger. And then at the council meeting, it was brutal. I've never seen a council treat people as rudely as they did. So that tells me that they're hiding something. So then I get all investigative. CO2 plants, there's been a couple on the planet. 2 of them have blown up and done some serious damage, very, very serious damage. So I kept pursuing them, and they finally did a 2-day, Friday and Saturday meeting where anybody could come. So I went the first day, and I talked to Damien Smith, who was he's the CEO for this plant in Innisfail. He told me a bunch of stuff. Then I went over. The top guy, Phil DeLuna, was there, the really top guy, and I asked him the same questions and got different answers.
Mm.
So right there, huge red flags. They couldn't answer my questions. So I dug and I dug and I dug, and I did not like what I dug up. So there's some problems with it, and unfortunately there's some really big problems with it. So guys, this isn't just a CO2 plant. This is a lithium extraction. They won't tell you that. They'll never tell you that. In fact, they think I'm crazy, but I can't even tell you how much research I've done on this, how many people I've talked to. Even I'm at a different place right now. I couldn't get reception at my place. I sit on a farm in a valley that's so deep that I can't even get internet connection most of the time. So I'm at another friend's place, and they were talking about it too. They had done some research on it, about the lithium and the CO2 go together in extraction for all sorts of other things. So when
Well,
I went to Phil DeLuna, the top guy, I asked him, I said, you've got 9 extrication holes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You're only building the first 3 on the front. He said, yeah, we're doing the CO2, and then we'll leave the rest for something else. When I talked to Damien, he said, oh no, April, all 9 of them are going to be CO2. No, they're not. The next 6 are going to be lithium. So that changes the story. I don't know why they have to lie about it, because at CO2, if it blows, if it goes at all, then the reality is, if it's a very quiet day out, there's going to be a lot of very sick, if even alive, people, because you don't put these things anywhere near town, anywhere near civilization. They've done it several times. It never worked. And they're going to take, this was the biggest trigger for me. This, business models. I'm totally into business models. I've done tons of them. So I asked them what their business model, because they told me, Damien told me that, April, don't worry about it. We're only going to take 1 truck about every 4 or 5 days up to north, way up north. It's going to get extracted into the ground just past Grand Prairie. And I said, exactly. So if you're only doing a little bit of CO2, why don't you extract it from where you're putting it in the ground? Because you're not taking it out of the ground to put it back in the ground. You're taking it from the air. Why wouldn't you just do that? No answer.
exactly. Build it up there then.
You know, oh, that's really great. But then when I started to put the lithium plant and stuff together too a little bit, and then my friends here just now, we were talking about it too, and yeah, that's got to be it. It just doesn't make any sense, but there's no business model in it. So that was my other question to Phil DeLuna. I said, so let me get this really clear. You are private company, self-funded.
Mhm.
You're going to extract CO2, drive it all the way up there, and come back, and there's no payment in between there. He says, no, April, don't worry about it. It's our own private company. We've got the funding for it. So then I did all the research on the funding, and Trudeau's funding at 100%, which
Of
means
course.
everybody here in this meeting is funding this project 100%. And there are, I can't remember how many Smith has. I had that up. I have been banned from all sorts of lithium and CO2 sites now.
Mhm. Of
And
course.
this is normal for me. This is absolutely normal for me. I get it. I flag them, and I usually do a screenshot or something, because I know I'm never going to get on a second time. That's just my life.
How many of the townspeople were at this meeting?
400,
Hmm,
somewhere in there. I'd probably say just under, Friday, probably about 250 to 300, and on Saturday, probably just under 500, I
hmm.
would think.
And was there anyone in regards to the people that lived there that were against this?
Not a one.
Really?
Not a one.
Oh, that's
Not
sad.
kidding. I had a couple of friends, Freedom Friends from Calgary and up north come down to do this with me, just to hear what I was going to say and listen to the response. And none of them, they're all for it. They absolutely voted unanimously. Oh, this is great. This is the best thing we could ever get for this town.
Okay, I just want to do a dive into what CO2 is because we all know what it is, but unfortunately, there's a lot of people who have completely been brainwashed and have completely forgot their education. So I just wanted to share because this is going to be going on Rumble and YouTube, and I just want to make sure that people who are waking up are very crystal clear. And I know our listeners here, of course, know everything that is going on. And have been sold, there's so many people that have been sold a lie that CO2 is a pollutant and it's not. And there are over 1,800 scientists that have stated that carbon dioxide is colorless, right? It's a, what is it? I'm just getting it here. It constitutes approximately 0.0415% of the Earth's atmosphere. Despite its relatively low concentration, CO2 plays a pivotal role in sustaining life and regulating climate patterns. It regulates climate patterns. So their reports remind us that CO2 is not a pollutant. It is the basis of all life on Earth, and its warming effect declines as its concentrations increase. So CO2 is plant food. It feeds the people. And again, these scientists been stating this for some time. Unfortunately, they were banned from social media. But you can find these reports in the Gather 2030 on Substack. April, let's go into lithium. Can you share more about it?
Lithium is a, it's a very sort of, how do I explain it? A silvery fine metal, but it can also move into a vapor. Like it has, I can't say the right word, metal, but it has properties where it gets lighter and lighter into almost a vapor. So it's a very, I wouldn't say volatile, but it's when you bring the two together, you could have quite an explosive property to it.
Right.
So
Like the event in Montreal. I think there was,
probably pretty much.
yeah.
I
And so,
get other people to do a lot of research for me now because it's just getting absolutely ridiculous. Because I'm up at another person's UR site because I went to get on and I got banned and my whole system went down. So I raced up here and came up here. That's how bad it's getting. But
incredible.
and that tells you that, you know, if somebody's full of crap, they're not going to care.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more people, a lot more vocal people than myself out there.
Yes.
I'm a peanut in the pod, but I focus on just certain very aspects of things that maybe nobody else really is pushing this much. But this is close to home. So the reason why I also ignited is because when I heard CO2 and all the rest of it, I happen to own a farm close enough to Innisfail that I'm probably going to get into a lot of trouble if something happens. So that I also had a personal stake in it.
Mhm.
And I know all the farmers around me are looking forward to a really nice year next year. So I'd like to have a nice year too. I'd like to get some crops. So, you know, we all would. And it
Absolutely.
was something we need.
Well, you're definitely on the right track if they're trying to stop you from saying anything.
Exactly. I always know that. If I start to get censored, I'm right on
Yeah.
track.
Can you talk more about what the municipalities will be facing if they proceed?
I don't know how many Smith has okayed. The last time I got onto the government website, there were 6, along with Innisfail would be 7. But I believe there was more than that. There's quite a few up north, and they're all around. And the curious part that I found was that they were near towns, and
Right,
they have to be in sort of a not a wet marshlands area. It's not a wet marshlands. It's more of a way that the ground underneath is laid, and there's a very specific term for it. But of course, I can't get that site anymore either. Um, but you can look it up. But it is kind of a wetland marsh, and of course, if you're looking for bog areas and wetland marshes, Innisfail is classic with their 3 lakes and everything else. So, and every other one that I looked at before I got canceled out of the sites, and her site, was they were all on the same bogs. And that's also where lithium is found. And that was my other trigger for lithium. And CO2 is used in lithium extraction.
mm,
So they're not going to make CO2 and not have a business model to it. And the lithium brought the business model in.
right.
So that made sense.
Well, this is the whole Partners for Climate Protection, right? They're all about climate change and letting go of dissolving all the cars that are oil and gas and making way for electric cars. Yeah, so I mean, it all began in 1994, when Brian Mulroney signed Canada into the UN Agenda 2030, and now all these countries have this agreement that's promised to bring big money to go green. But now we're finding out that all of the municipalities that are saying yes to the ICLEI program, that the federal government and ICLEI themselves, no one is going to be liable if they follow through with this program. So exactly what you're saying in regards to lithium and how dangerous it is, if there's any fallout from anything that happens, the government will not be held responsible.
No, there weren't. And there was, so there's another thing you guys need to know. Back in the 80s, I've been in advertising and marketing for over 40 years, and I've had some of the biggest clients on this planet. So I've done more private work than anybody I know, and I'll never say anything about it because I can't remember any of it anyway. But the reality is, this came up in the discussion papers. Karen, do you know what the discussion papers are? Did
No,
I ever talk to you about this?
please share.
The discussion papers was a set of documents that George Soros produced in 83, 84, and 85. I was one of the typesetters that in Vancouver at the time that was really good at keeping my mouth shut, so I got the job. So I started in 83, and the first 6 months, I just typeset it. I mean, I read it. You have to read it. George Soros says you can typeset it, but please don't, read it. And I'm a typesetter. I read it 5 times. I don't have typos. And so I started typesetting this, and the first 6 months was kind of odd, and it was slated for 2050. I'm probably not going to be here in 2050 because I'm going to be 68 or 69. I don't even know how old I am. Anyway, old enough that I'm not going to be here in 2050. So I didn't care. I just did my life. But the second half of 83, it got really ugly. It got creepy, actually. And it just got really creepy. But at $4,000 a week, you're not going to walk away from something like that in 83. So in 84, I started to do it, and it got uglier and uglier. And a lot of the stuff that we have gone through was in there. Now, I got to right near the end of 84, and I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. And I backed out, and that's another story. I'll relate that story later because you cannot back out of this stuff. So anyway, then I had to disappear for quite a long time. I had to give up my business and disappear for a while. And everything's fine now. And I still have And one of the things for me is I would love to tell everybody about this stuff, and I kind of release bits and pieces of it, but I still signed a contract to keep my mouth shut. So it's going to come to us no matter what. And you'll hear me once in a while going, guys, just be aware of this or that, but I will never tell the details because you don't want to know them. But we're going to find out a lot of stuff anyway. This is how I know about all this stuff. I've known about this. This was coming way back in the 80s. The discussion papers was a kind of the final set of documentation to go over all the things that we're experiencing now. There were some things that have been left out, and there's some things that I don't remember in there. But then again, I didn't do the last year, so I don't know. So that's how I come by a lot of this, kind of honestly.
Thank you,
So
April. And thank
you're
you for,
welcome.
yeah, thank you for not just, taking yourself to another country and hiding in a jungle somewhere and just staying in the fight. I am so grateful that you're here in Canada and sharing this knowledge with all of us. We really appreciate it.
No problem, Karen. You have to. We just have to. We have to survive this. We have to get through this.
Absolutely. And so now in regards to the agenda, um, where was your first, like, in regards to where you are now in Alberta? When did you discover what was happening? Like what was it for you that awakened you to this deep sky plant?
2016, I got a trigger, and I can't really even, it was one of those fleeting things that I was flipping through Facebook or something, and I went, huh, I wrote that. And I kind of kept going. And then I thought about it for about 3 or 4 days, and I went, no, it's 2050. It's not happening. So I did some research, couldn't find anything about it. 2017, 2018, big trigger. By the end of 2018, I knew we were in it.
Mhm. Right,
Absolutely knew we were in it. There
right.
was no way we were going to get away from it.
Mhm.
Too much was coming forward, and when the vaccine came, as soon as that came out, that's really heightened in those papers, by the way. We're
Mm.
not all supposed to be here. They thought we were all kind of really silly, but unfortunately they were wrong. A whole pile of us are actually incredibly intelligent and won't do it. But that was their going to be their big thing. They were going to wipe everybody out, and if there was anybody left, then they were going to do all these other things to us. But I don't think they expected the results that they got. I'm pretty sure they didn't.
Mm.
So yeah, triggers.
Yeah, thank you, April. Okay, we're gonna open it up. Esther.
We have some questions. And the first one was answered, but perhaps April has something else as well. Paul Belanger says, are there some sites that you have? And Rhonda answered with deepskyclimate.com, Deep Sky Labs was one. And then the FAQs are under there with the FAQ section. Do you have any other sites that you would recommend, or is that it, the main one?
If you were to look for where the locations are for these, they, it's hard. It's really hard. They had them out about 2 months or 3 months ago, just before I went to the Innisfail meetings, and I can't find them anymore. So we'd have to ask Smith where they are exactly in Alberta and how many there are, which is something I'm going to do. I'm just going to pick up the phone and call her since she says we can do that now.
Great.
Should be an interesting conversation. So yeah, Esther, I can't fully answer that question yet.
That's okay. And does that same website, the deepskyclimate.com, does it describe the CO2 sequestration project? Does it describe everything about it, or is there somewhere to go to find out some of the things that you're discussing?
Um, they they do have a form of what they say they're doing, but you really need to dig a little further because it's light. On their site, I find it too light. You really have to dig. They won't tell you if there's repercussions. They won't tell you if there's anything that could happen. So you have to go in and dig. And boy, I dug. I dug a lot, but unfortunately I'm blocked a lot too. So, and it's not hard to dig. You just literally, it's not hard to dig. And you'll find a lot of other countries, and it's several countries that have done CO2 extraction, and it didn't go very well for them. So, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thanks,
And
Esther. Yes.
Megan asks about prescribing lithium for bipolar disorder, and then there was another bit of conversation in the chat. Do you have any comment about a positive use for lithium?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, lithium is a valuable product. There's no question about it. But because of its qualities, it can be a really progressive product, or it can be a really negative product. And especially when you throw CO2 in the mix. So these aren't two very separate things that they're extracting. The CO2 and the lithium will go hand in hand. That part I'm not comfortable with. There's just too many openings for failure on that. So, and yeah, no.
Okay. And Diane asks, do you have documents stating that lithium will be extracted? And where did you particularly find that information?
On a bunch of the sites that I can no longer get to, but I'm going to sit down with the two people that are here in this place. I can't do it. I'm going to do it on their internet service and their computers, and we'll find them all again. Because every time I go and review them, they're gone. Like I'll be sitting there and all of a sudden I'll get a blank screen. So I'm going to come and do it with these guys, and I'll have a whole list of. I'll probably send it to you, Karen and Esther, and I'll send you the whole list of all the links I have, because I can remember most of them, and I'm up here and I'll dig for them. I'm sorry about that, guys, but
Oh, it's all good. I
All
get it.
good.
Yeah.
Yes. And somebody is asking, I think it was at the beginning as well, can you explain the transport process as you understand it? Lithium is mined. How do you feel it is extracted?
I can't get the information on how exactly it will be extracted in Innisfail, because it's a mining. I think it's a release very similar to CO2. So CO2 is a release from the air, and they'll throw it into a container and they'll ship it away. They're not throwing it into a container at all. They're going to use megatons of CO2. They need megatons along with the lithium to produce whatever it is they're producing. So in whatever situation they're going to use it in, because you can't find that anywhere. So, why are we keeping this information confidential? If it's safe, it should be out there. If it's not safe and you're doing something illegal, that's another story. But I still keep coming back to money laundering, of course, because the amount of money that's flowing into that CO2 project right now is in millions upon millions.
Bingo. Exactly.
April, Helen says the mention of land purposes, as you said, is completely wrong. And the meaning for land use is the formation in the storage part, not extraction. How would you comment around that?
I would comment probably correct.
Great. Okay. And Rhonda has said she has found the locations listed on the website still.
Thank
So
you.
apparently they're still there. Rhonda has put a few helpful links in there. And Karen has put the Deep Sky Labs to build the world's first carbon removal innovation link. So people can look at that. Are these in all provinces, including BC? This is from Jeanette.
Quebec, Alberta, and BC, I believe. So
Okay.
far. So
Thank you.
far. That's all I could find. And I still looked today and I found the Quebec link and stuff.
Thank you. Deborah asks, in your opinion, this zero carbon emissions, is that not genocide in your view? How do we live with this? She knew they were going to build this complex in Innisfail a few months ago, but she was a bit late getting on the call. Is this what you were speaking about? So maybe you could comment, I'll rephrase the first questions.
Thank you.
Is this zero carbon emissions, is it genocide in your view?
Absolutely, without question. We're already low on CO2. I'm in farmland. I know everybody around, and they're all hoping that we can increase that level somehow. And they're completely unaware of the CO2 extraction plant. And I'm going to bring that forward to the farmers coming up this week, because I believe that, we're also going to get our land extracted from us, right?
Mhm.
So that's coming, C293 or whatever. Too many bills in my head to remember the numbers that I'm fighting. But there's a whole pile of us getting together, and I'm going to bring the CO2 plant up. And that'll probably ignite pretty much everybody in my area, because I've already got about 6 people who I've got that are helping me. And the farmers, I've always believed that it'll kind of end with the farmers, because they think they can just come and take our land away. And I'm right next to Marshall's. You're going to tell Ian Marshall that his 20 sections all around this area are no longer his.
Mm.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Armien says, is this done only in Canada or is this happening all over the world?
all over the world. It's a worldwide thing. But right now, it's only in a few countries. But I can tell you that DeLuna slipped, and he said, April, don't worry about it. It's just going to be all over the world. So, it's not a big deal.
Interesting.
It's the agenda.
So I don't have any more questions in the chat here. And the last comment from Seeker Moz was, demanding accountability is the only hope. Do you have thoughts around that, April?
I completely agree. I think it's going to take quite a number of us to change this, and we don't have a big, huge lot of time to do this in. A lot of things are going to come flying at us now. It's going to ramp up to what I consider warp speed. The farming thing is coming up really quick. And when I say really quick, I don't mean next summer. I mean in like a couple of weeks. So we all are all aware of all the things that are ramping up.
Yeah, I get
And
it.
I keep trying to think back in the discussion papers, because I lost the last year of it, so I'm missing some stuff. There is one thing that was going to come up a little earlier, and I think it might come up really quickly. And this has nothing to do with CO2, but Karen, can I talk about it just for a little bit?
Yes,
Because it
absolutely.
was a really, really big thing when I was typesetting this. So back in the 80s, we didn't call them cell phones. There actually wasn't a real name for a cell phone back then, but they were going to create a device, a communication device, that would be so addictive that nobody would put it down, even if you told them they were going to die from it tomorrow.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
like a cell phone.
So guys, just so you know, I have never owned a cell phone. I still have a landline. I get along really fine without a cell phone. I have never needed a cell phone. But that's why people keep saying to me, you're so untechy, April. For somebody that's really techie, you're really untechy. I said, I just know too much. But I just want to throw that out there, because guys, put it in a Faraday case. Put it in a Faraday case. Get all your kids to put them in Faraday cases, and please don't leave them out in your room open at night anymore. Just please don't do it, because I think the WEF and the UN are struggling right now. I know that Trudeau is struggling. It is not going to last forever. In fact, I think probably in the next year we won't even see or hear from them again. I really do, but we're going to get ramped up pretty quick. So I'm just saying this. I've got a really amazing audience here right now, and I just want to throw that out there. Just keep your cell phone, just put it in a Faraday case when you're not using it, and try not to rely on it as much. Please do
That
that.
is Such great advice. I've been sharing that for a while, well, in regards to get off your cell phone. Like only spend like 10 minutes on your cell phone. And the moment I got mine, this is going back, oh my gosh, I would say 1993, it was a flip phone. And I had it up to my ear and yeah, my whole entire side of my face burnt.
Oh,
And
for crying
yeah,
out loud, Karen.
yeah, that was way back in the day. So after that, I never ever put a cell phone against my face to my ear ever again. It's always speakerphone. And I will never have my phone near my bedroom when I sleep. It's always downstairs.
You
But
don't.
yeah, I do need to have a Faraday cage. So thank you for that reminder.
Because my cousin was one of the first people in Victoria, BC, who worked on this. And he came over one weekend. This is 27 years ago. 27 years ago. And he told me all about it because he knew what I had done in the 80s. And he came over and told me all about it. He was ahead of it. It was his job to make cell phones dangerous and all the rest of it. He talked to me. He had a cell phone on his hip. He went back to Victoria on the ferry, got pinged, burnt his hip, and months later died of cancer in every part of his body. I lost my cousin from all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's that body area network that they're making all of us as routers. And so it's so important for us to take care of our bodies, our mind, our brain, everything right now. So, so key.
I feel energetics quite
Yeah.
easily. And I don't know about you guys, but I have never been so happy in all my life over the last 3 weeks. I
Mm.
know that sounds really silly, but all this crap is not going to come to fruition. I can't see it coming to fruition. I
No,
can't. I
no.
feel it. I can't. I wake up just absolutely thrilled to death, and I drive around the same roads every day going, oh my God, this place is so beautiful.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
it's the it's the most coolest headspace to be in. And I'm not asking for it. It's just there. It just comes. And I look at it and I know, and I've known from the very beginning that I started feeling like this, that this would never come to fruition. But it's just that I know the other side too. I know this side and light side, dark side. Dark side's going to do a lot of all the really stupid stuff. They're not going to win. They're not going to get anywhere, but I still don't want a few people hurt because nobody said anything.
Yeah.
But they're not going to, they won't get there. They won't get there. They might even lighten up and come with us. That would be really kind of crazy, but we don't know,
Yeah.
right? We have never gone through this in our history. So
No, all by design to wake us up to who we truly are and to remind us that we are powerful beings. And for me, it's like I woke up in 1993 at that time, and I knew in 2020 when this all happened that it was Agenda 2030. And I knew that I was here to assist in the creation of the new earth and creating heaven on earth. So I'm always reminding everyone, every day we need to discover our pocket of heaven. Your home needs to be a pocket of heaven. When you go out with your friends, eat great food, create pockets of heaven, because as you mentioned, right, we have the creator has created this beautiful earth, and unfortunately we have the devil administering it. So I do believe that it is end times for those dark entities, and I call them the powers that were now.
good one.
Yeah.
Karen, someone asked if there are any recommendations on specific Faraday products. Rhonda has her hand up.
Yes, on our lifefirstcanada.ca website, I do believe if you go to resources, there is actually an EMF company there that we have posted in the resource section.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to share, I think Erin mentioned something here. Yes, exactly, Erin. I've seen over the years when I would go to the gym, I would see women putting their cell phones in their sports bras as they were working out. And it is just not the most healthiest thing to do at all. The cell phone should not even be near us at all in any way. The cell phone should never even be in any pocket. It should not even be on you at all. It's one of the reasons why I meditate every day, because I find that meditation, what it does is it energetically begins to shift your body, and it begins to dissolve any lower frequencies that are in disharmony. And so the longer you are able to sit in a meditation and just sit with your mind, to sit with your emotions, to sit with your soul, then your soul force energy begins to dissolve all those lower frequencies around you. And to me, it's one of the most powerful tools that we've been given. Rhonda, go ahead.
Rhonda from Innisfail here.
Hi, Rhonda.
I wanted out of corrupt Cochrane, so I moved to Innisfail and accepted a deal on a new house before I even heard about this whole deep sky thing. When I did, not I'm not a fan of this whole removing CO2 thing, and I don't believe in climate change and all that crap. So I did a little bit of investigating myself and found a lot of what you might call fear mongering around this. And so that kind of got me all up in arms. And I know that a few people in this town are as well. That's why they had, a few issues apparently at that council meeting. I wasn't at that, but I did attend the public engagement on Thursday, September 19th. So I went to that. It was at the library here. And I asked a bunch of questions. And I have to say, I felt better coming out of that meeting after talking to these people. They had all the, I mean, sure, maybe they're blowing smoke up our backsides. I get that. Yeah, I can see both sides of each story, right? You never know what you're really being told. But so one of the questions I had was, why Innisfail? Instead of like downwind of a larger center like Edmonton or Calgary. And the explanation I got, which does make sense, and I researched it, and this is true, is that if the like a metaphor would be if you take a drop of food coloring and drop it in a bowl of water, it dissipates immediately, right? That's what CO2 does in the air. So regardless of where the CO2 is being released, like in the bigger centers, it's just mixing up in our atmosphere. And so where they capture it apparently doesn't matter. And so this was, I think, a business deal, right? Some lobbyist has come forward for the town of Innisfail and created this connection. It's going to create jobs, and what they're going to do. One of the things that I was concerned about was because I had heard that of like CO2 releasing into the atmosphere can be very deadly if it's highly concentrated. So that's what kind of freaked me out. And so I asked them to explain in detail how this process works. So what they're going to do here in Innisfail is set up fans. So the fans will extract the CO2 out of the air. It is compressed into canisters. Those canisters are then going to be transported up to Sturgeon County, east of Edmonton, and sequestered 1 kilometer down underground. That's the story that we've been told. So there's no chance of any sort of release or explosion or anything like that. And so another question, and I asked them in sort of related to that. I said, if are they going to be monitoring the CO2 levels? Because that was my concern. If this, something went wrong and got too much released into the atmosphere, that could be a problem. And they said that they will have monitoring stations on all 4 quadrants of the town. And if the levels rise above 350 parts per million, they will shut the system down. So, it sounds like they do have safety measures in place. So, I went into this public engagement with a little bit kind of like, kind of mad. How dare you do this in the town I just moved to? But, you know, after listening to them, it actually sounds like it's not that big a deal. Now, nothing was ever said about lithium, so that part I don't know about. I don't, I don't know what's going on with that. I mean, if CO2 is part of lithium extractions, we do know that there's a lot of lithium in Alberta. So maybe that's just one little side step that they didn't mention, was that maybe they're going to sequester all of that CO2 capture west, like in Sturgeon, or east, I guess it is, in Sturgeon County, for use in lithium extraction in other locations. Like I know in Clearwater area, there is lithium extraction going on, right? So, so that part I don't know about. So I don't know what to make of it. I'm still kind of on the fence with all of it, to be honest.
I believe, Rhonda, they lied to you.
I have a question for you, Rhonda.
Yep.
If there's going to be quite a few of them around Alberta, if one of them has a problem or releases CO2 and there's any illness or any problems, do you realize that you guys could have an absolute nightmare trying to sell your home one day?
True.
I think that if there's a problem, it's going to have to be dealt with and like shut down. I mean, you can't let something. I mean, I don't see, based on the project, like if you were there and you said you went on a Saturday, Sunday. I didn't know that there was a Saturday, Sunday one. We went to there was Wednesday, Thursday ones that we went to. And they had all the information there, and it all looks fairly legit, I have to say. So I just don't know where the lies really are. Like when you say they're lying to us.
Okay. You heard me at the front end when I was talking about the two guys, that one would say one thing and one say another and contradict each other. When I
Yeah, I
was
heard you.
meeting, yeah. And secondly, what's the business model in taking CO2 out of the air in a small town that could possibly be damaged somehow, even small, and shipping it all the way up north and putting in the ground? There's no business model. There's no monetary model in that other than money laundering. And everybody here and every Canadian is going to pay through the nose for all the extraction plants all over Canada eventually, along with all the other phenomenal amount of money laundering Trudeau has already gone through. So it just as a taxpayer, I'm pissed. It's right there. We just keep compounding these things, and we just let them exist, and they keep compounding and compounding. We're already dead broke. Canada is dead broke.
Everybody in, not just even Alberta, like Canada, just has to, like, you know, speak up against this, because I mean, I don't, just simply, even if it is exactly what they told us it is, I still don't see the point of it, because we need CO2, you know, like it's just silly. The whole thing's just silly. So, but the whole lithium thing, I don't, you know, that's another angle I haven't heard about. So, yeah, if you can maybe share any information you know about with that, details around that with us, with Karen, maybe, that'd be good to know.
Yeah, Rhonda, as things go forward here, and with a couple other people that I'm working with right now, we're going to get more information on the lithium part. We have to.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you, Rhonda, for asking great questions and being open-minded, because as April said, we just have to look at it. Here's the plant. They're extracting CO2. They're going to take trucks now from Innisfail, truck it over, and then put it in the ground in north of Edmonton. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And it says $50 million to create the plant. And with all of the ICLEI and the climate change programs that the government is putting forward, and the international globalist They have all stated that they are not liable if anything goes wrong with any of their programs, any of their climate change programs. They are not liable. The municipality will be liable. And as April said, I agree with her 100%. This is money laundering, and all they're going to do is suck out all the life force energy from the town so it becomes bankrupt. And then all the people move into the cities. Unfortunately, but we are going to be taking back our towns. Yes. So April, I agree with you 100%. People can no longer turn their back, and it will be up to the people. It'll be up to every man and woman to stand up and create the change that we wish to see. So what solutions do you propose? You know, what can our listeners do to get engaged and make sure that this doesn't happen in their town?
If you think that it's going to come to a town, you need to go to every council meeting and stand up and speak. Every one of them. We should all be engaged in the councils in Innisfail as well, but no one will go with me. So I just don't go anymore, and they won't talk to me anyway. So I just quit. I was by myself, and I can't do it by myself, guys. I really need something. Writing letters is always a good one. Being in person is much better, but go and bug your mayor all the time. Like one person a day should bug a mayor and council and just say, I want to talk to the mayor right now, and just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. There's nothing we can do with Trudeau. That's just to me, Trudeau is just a momentum that's going to fizzle and disappear anyway. So, but we just got to hound the councils. However, you got to be aware that your mayor is going to fight. Your mayor is going to fight this all the way. You should be asking questions. Why? Because Innisfail's mayor just would not, she was not just not polite, she was incredibly rude when I first talked to her, and I have it all on film. And we are going to release that film probably pretty quick. But she was unbelievably rude and called us stupid. And I just asked her, I said, is there any part of the UN in this? And she laughed and she goes, April, of course it's all UN. And then she threw her hands up in the air and went, how stupid do you think we are? Silly girl, get out of here. And we just walked her and walked away. But I'm going to release that tape coming up here. I just haven't done it yet. It's not until she gets a little sillier. But just talk to the mayors. If the mayors won't talk to you about it and won't open up to it and stuff, that will tell you exactly what will be happening in your areas. Rhonda, you and I need to get together. I go to Innisfail all the time. Love to meet you.
Okay, Esther, is there any more questions? Do you know?
No, there are no other questions.
Okay.
I just sent you a comment though from Ken that you may want to consider. I think it might be an alternative point of view.
Okay, yes, Ken stated that he hauled CO2 for 5 years for fracking wells in the 90s. In every 27-ton load, there is 7.5 loss into the air on site. No one died. Plus, we hauled to greenhouses to achieve 1200 PM to promote growth and reduce disease.
So I'm interpreting that to think that there wasn't a problem with the whole CO2 conversation, but I may be misinterpreting. April, can you comment on that?
I don't believe that those CO2 areas were near or in towns. Am I correct on that?
Hello,
I can.
how is everybody?
Wonderful.
Yeah, no, from 85 to 90, I used to work with a group in Cochrane called Foothill CO2, and we were the main transporters of CO2 for Frackmaster, fracking wells all over Alberta. Whether people like fracking or not, that's not the story, but it was the flavor of the day. And we would use anywhere from 50 to 300 metric tons of CO2 on a frack. And when they were talking about the properties of CO2, it stays at a liquid at minus 80 degrees Celsius and 120 PSI. And when you expose it to, say, 20 degrees if you do a rapid transition to the atmosphere, it will become an ice plug. And when you get to 20 degrees Celsius, it'll expand 540 times. And that's why they use it in the expansion of wells for opening up ground underneath. But, you know, the other thing that none of these governments talk about it, at one time we went to Ontario because a liquid air plant in Montreal failed its inspection. And we hauled CO2 from Sarnia to, it eventually ended up in Montreal for the cooling of foods. So you have to figure that on the average, we were moving 250 metric ton a day that was going mainly to cool fish products. And that happened 5 days a week for 3 months. And all that stuff goes in all these bins and they put it underneath and it does the cooling above and it all dissipates in the air. So, you know, and I don't know how much this plant at Cochrane produces. I kind of forget, but I'm pretty sure they can produce some 50 metric tons of CO2 a day.
How close to Cochrane was it, Ken?
The plant, like 2 miles, even
Okay.
closer now because the town's expanded,
Yeah.
you
'Cause
know.
this plant is right in Innisfail.
You know, I don't believe CO2 is a problem because if it was, why aren't they cutting it off for the cooling of foods? Why is the Cochrane plant here still producing it? Doesn't it seem ironic we're producing it right here and then they're trying to get rid of it? I don't
Exactly.
know. I want to tell you this quick story. We did a kind of a test frac, and that was one of the big ones with 300 metric tons at Morningside, Alberta, just west of Highway 2. And all the fracs are done during the daylight. And after it was done, one of the guys from Frac Master yells, "You got to get a look at this." Well, where the vapor was bleeding off, it was shooting into a grove of poplar trees. It obviously started small on the edge and got bigger. You could literally see this perfect little bell curve in the trees where they had been absorbing that CO2, and they were plumper, they were firmer, they were greener. I wish I'd have had a camera in my phone in those days because I would have taken a picture.
It makes you wonder why anybody would want to take it out of the air and drive it all the way up past Grand Prairie and stuff it in the ground when it's more valuable in the air.
Exactly.
I agree with you 100%. Your point on what's the business model is a very good observation.
Thank you,
Ken.
Ken.
Okay, you're welcome.
We really appreciate you sharing that information.
Mhm.
Seeker, go ahead.
Unmute. No, I can unmute. Thanks.
There you go.
I heard some people raising the issue that may water down the effect of this kind of project. I am sure many of us remember implant for breast. They were saying it's good and safe. After some years, 10, 15, 20 years, it turned out to be very dangerous and bring about the cancer. They always give us this sunny side. They don't show us the reality. So we have to be looking exactly opposite of what they are telling us. Because if you look into the industry, never ever industry did anything that benefits mankind other than the farmers. So I would not buy into any story, especially when there is anything that doesn't make sense as there is the business model. Why should you exact it here and have take it hundreds of kilometers and then dig a ground and put it down there? Yet we cannot feed our children. So I would not believe anything that they are telling us.
Exactly.
To
Thank
prove
you.
it.
Transparency, accountability. Thank you, Seeker, wise man. Thank you, April. Yes, the UN directive programs, they are going to have significant effects on and so many levels. Mobility, right? They want to lower the people from having vehicles in the future. They don't want us to own property. Energy security is going to be an issue. Small town growth is going to be a massive issue. And they're going to be definitely redirecting those public funds and assets to corporate foreign investors under the guise of saving the planet. I do believe that you're absolutely right. We need to start speaking to our mayors and really focusing on where we live, what's happening where we live, and maybe there's things happening where you live that you have no idea is even happening. So everyone, we're just calling you to just investigate. And remember what I said earlier, that most of the municipalities and town council members, a lot of them have no idea that the UN programs adopted at that local level are entirely voluntary. Many of these programs are funded by, again, the United Nations affiliate, ICLEI Canada, and the government of Canada. It's administered through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And it's, again, all voluntary. It's not mandatory. We need to really rise up and look at a different way of living, to follow suit with what they're doing in Newfoundland, to begin to unincorporate our towns so that we can begin to become sovereign. And there's a guy out there, and I can't remember his name, he's from the United States, and he says that you do not have to have any funding from a federal government or a provincial government in a town. The town model needs to be changed. And this is where a town can actually create its own private trust, and everyone belongs to the private trust. You begin to invest in gold and silver, etc. And then every town becomes prosperous unto themselves. And then they take care of themselves just like they're doing in Newfoundland. So to me, that is just such a great example what's happening already here in Canada. And we need to kick, as Maggie Braun says, kick ICLEI out of our municipalities. Kickley, 100%. Thank you, April, for being here and being the spiritual warrior that you are. We are so grateful for you, and we have your back, April. We are like Shannon and everybody, right? We're here for you. We love you and are so grateful for everything that you do. And when we show our hands, this means that we're clapping for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Esther. So appreciate you. Brilliant. Yes, I agree, Deborah. She is a truth warrior. Thank you, everyone, for being on this path with all of us here. We're so grateful for all of you saying yes to freedom and doing your part. One step every day is all it takes. One step every day towards freedom. As like April said, you know, we've already won. We're already free. Just more and more people need to rise up and claim that freedom now, claim that sovereignty. Together we rise, everyone.